2, 1.
Good evening, Mamaroneck, and good evening, Larchmont. I'm Michael Witch. I'm going to be your host tonight for another meeting live with our three local leaders, our elected officials. Mayor Walsh is on the screen, and Mayor Murphy is on the screen, and Supervisor Nancy Seligson is on the screen. And that other handsome gentleman is Matt Sullivan, who's the executive director of LMC-TV. And we are live for the next half hour. If you have a question or comment, please email it to lmctv@lmctv.org. And we'll do our best to get your question answered. Matt, are there questions from last week that we didn't get a chance to ask?
Yes, thanks, Mike. And again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I want to thank everyone on the Zoom chat and our audience at home as well. We have two questions that were not answered last week. I'll start with the first one. Is there a plan or protocol in place for how we resume business as usual when the time comes for that to happen?
I think the plan and protocol is going to be something that derives from a higher authority. We're waiting for, the basic functions of life to be turned back on again, which is schools and businesses, and how that's going to work. Right now, we don't know how that's going to work. All the best experts are saying that it really can't work effectively until there is widespread and systematic testing. So right now, I don't personally have a plan on how it's going to roll out, and I think it has to come from, the state and the national government.
I would agree, although we are functioning, all three governments are functioning pretty normally in some sense, that we are providing all of the essential services and most of the services that the government provides. So in the case of the town of Mamaroneck, it would simply be bringing the staff back in at full force. Right now, we're on a very modified schedule. But we are looking toward the county and the state for their lead in telling us and letting us know when we can all resume a much more normal life.
I know that the governor just today, I believe, extended the pause, as he calls it.
Yes.
May 15th. What does that mean locally for us? Lorraine, do you want to take that?
Well, I mean, it means another 4 weeks where we know for sure the businesses won't be running. It means another 4 weeks of all of us stuck in our houses. But beyond that, we have to start. We've kind of been taking this thing as it comes. It's sort of rolled over us week by week. And the uncertainty of when it's going to end means that our long-term planning is very hypothetical. So at least knowing now that we're going another month, we can look ahead to the end of May and the June activities and say, what do we have to cancel? What do we have to rearrange? What meetings do we have to now switch to from actual meetings to Zoom? And, there's all those kind of logistics for us. It also reinforces the concept that this is going to take a while to pull out of. And the ramifications, both socially and economically, are going to be vast. And that's really, it's frightening. And it's sometimes it's really gets a little overwhelming to think about.
Yeah.
Matt, you have another question that came in that we didn't get to.
Yes. The question comes in, how are people with services able to find out what's available to them, especially those who do not have internet access?
Matt, it's really hard to hear you right now. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, my apologies. How are people who need services able to find out what's available to them, especially those who do not have internet access?
I can say that we've been encouraging folks to call the town and speak to someone in the town center. We've also repeatedly asked people to sign up for emergency notifications from the government and to, as you said, without internet, of course, we do ask people to go to the website for general updates, but I've also been doing robocalls on a regular basis. So I'm giving out information that way, but they certainly are welcome to call us and we will refer them to whatever service they're looking for and give them the information. There is a lot of information out there from the state, from the county, and from the different nonprofits throughout the community. So we all have connections in all of those areas and can help people.
The same goes for the village of Larchmont. I mean, our phones are fully staffed. When it's not his day in, the phone is forwarded to him at home. So we can always answer and get information for people. But it's a good point that this person brings up, because we really are now a digital world, and there's no print newspaper locally, and without internet, it's not easy to get information. It's really not.
I just want to point out that all the village phones, the regular numbers people had for DPW and the clerk treasurer and the village manager's office, if they call during regular hours, they're being picked up and answered by staff who might not be here, but they're all monitoring the phones and messages get forwarded. The remote working, well, I don't want to say it's seamless, but it really is getting better every day. And staff is really adapting to it and being very productive. And so for folks who usually call numbers and who have, reach out that way, everything is still 100% during business hours being answered.
I'd just like to point out that we still have LMC-TV on cable television as well as using that tonight as one of the means to reach out to the community.
True.
I think we all want to thank our staffs and employees for being so dedicated and keeping on it and providing the services and the communication that's so needed for all the residents. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, they've had to be very, very flexible over the last couple of weeks. A lot's been thrown at them in terms of changing their work habits, changing their schedule, working from home, dialing in. It's been a lot, but they've really risen to the challenge.
And a lot of the staff that has to come in and has to actually, show up, a lot of them are, putting their health at risk to serve the community.
Yep.
And we thank them all for that. This is not an easy time. Even if you don't get sick, everybody's anxious about getting sick. So for those that are coming in every day and doing their duty, whether remotely or actually physically in their workplace, we want to thank them all for a job well done.
Do you folks have some updated statistics about cases in our communities?
Yeah.
No, you don't want to talk about it. I would understand.
We have 185 in the village.
Well,
it's like a box score now,
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say it's such a silly number because it's so inaccurate. But right now, the confirmed cases in the town are 82.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think we're at 35 today.
I mention it because it seems to be the headline that some of the e-newsletters go to. And I get 2 or 3 updates a day. And that seems to be what they call attention to first off.
Yeah, it's easy reporting.
Yeah.
We have a question that came in.
Can I just elaborate on that for 1 second? And I said this before, but it bears repeating. You should be treating everyone you come in contact with as if they had COVID. So that's what we really want to get across here.
Right.
Should be socially distancing. You should be coming in contact with as few people as possible. So that's the real statistic: is treat everybody like they have COVID.
Right.
I'm sorry.
We have a question that came in. Does Governor Cuomo's executive order that people wear face masks apply if people are taking walks around their neighborhood and practicing good social distancing? or is it only applicable to stores and areas where social distancing is difficult?
Well, as with many of the governor's executive orders, we will require some clarification. But my interpretation of what he said today is that be prepared. I think everyone should have a mask or face covering with them at all times if they go outside their home. Clearly, if you're the only person on the street and there's no one within, 100 feet of you, you don't have to cover your face. But if you're going to be on the sidewalk passing people, if you're going to be getting on a bus, a crowded sidewalk, a park where there are a lot of people walking past each other, cover your face. We talked about this last Thursday, and I put it in all of the news I put out. It can't hurt, and it probably helps. So do it. It's not that comfortable, I have to say. It gets a little hot.
But I think the governor's words today was, if you are in a situation outside where social distancing is not attainable.
Right.
But I think, what the mayor said before is perfectly right. I mean, you never know. You turn a corner, you might be walking right into somebody. So I always carry a bandana, because I always want to be a cowboy anyway.
Now's your chance. Well, I had to go to the bank the other day and I was wearing a bandana. I think this is the only situation where that's acceptable.
In my neighborhood 40 years ago, they would have emptied the cash drawer for you.
Well, we're a little nervous because we have outfitted all the sanitation workers with bandanas because they're much sturdier than the masks themselves. So we don't want anyone to think there's a new, group of bandits in the community.
Supervisor Seligson, you mentioned the sanitation department. We had another question come in that says, I recently saw Mayor Murphy post a picture of a rainbow drawn by a child taped to a garbage can to thank our local sanitation worker. Are there any other ways that our children can help show gratitude for our local essential workers?
I think a simple thank you is greatly appreciated and really acknowledged. Certainly making a picture is a lovely thing to put out there. We've had some other wonderful stories that people have baked foods, cookies and cupcakes for the sanitation workers and dropped them off, of course, outside. And they really appreciate that. It is a tough job to begin with, and it's even tougher in these conditions. So it is wonderful to have people, just a simple thank you, a drawing, certainly the cookies and extra food is always welcome. So all of those are really nice gestures.
I received an email from the county executive who talked about a potential $60 to $90 million shortfall in the county budget. And he indicated ways that they were going to try to make some of that up by bonding out certain responsibilities and borrowing from the quote rainy day fund. And I know, Mayor Murphy, you sent something also to village residents. Since I'm a village resident, I got that. Is that something that Larchmont is going to do as well?
We're cutting our tentative budget as actually, we're going to have the public hearing on it Monday night at 7:30. And we are cutting a lot of expenses. We're cutting almost our entire capital project budget. And at this point, we don't anticipate the need for dipping into the fund balance, our surplus. But that definitely is a consideration after we pass the budget for May 1st, as we start to move into the new fiscal year, and we see the reality and find out if our projections, which, we're being very conservative, we really are cutting our non-tax revenue by almost $800,000 to see if our projections hold. If things are worse than we're anticipating, then we do have the option of using fund balance to help. We can also potentially borrow from other government funds for the period of a year. Bonding for operating expenses is really a last ditch attempt. We would try to avoid that at all costs. It's a really bad sign.
You see, I'm sorry.
That's it.
Tom, did you say you wanted to say something?
Just briefly, you know, we have an almost $2 million deficit. The village of Mamaroneck is 3 times larger than Larchmont, so our per capita on sales tax is a lot more, and sales tax is, plummeting. We also have a lot of parking meters in the village that bring in a lot of revenue, and they are now, out of service. We're not charging people to park. So, we might have to dip into our rainy day fund. We had an ambitious budget before that was below the tax cap and had many new initiatives that the village had needed for a long time. A lot of those initiatives might have to be delayed a year. We're looking at other savings and asking department heads to be more creative, and they are cooperating. It's just a tough time because, you don't know, we're budgeting and it almost feels like being in Vegas. You know what I mean? You don't know what the odds are going to be in June. You're making a bet in May and you don't know what the odds are going to be in June.
And the town is in a different position.
Yes, we passed our budget in the end of December as per state law. So we're a little more than 1 quarter into our fiscal year. And we looked at our numbers at our last board meeting. Actually, we had a board meeting last night, but it was the one before that, where we examined and projected what we think some of the reductions in revenues will be. But we can also delay or postpone some of the expenditures that we were planning on. And certainly the capital projects are the area that we were first looking at to determine whether we'll move forward with those. We also asked department heads to really eliminate all purchases except those that are absolutely necessary. And we're very well situated in the sense that we do have a very healthy fund balance. So we could resort to that. And I think we probably will to some degree, but that's what it's there for this kind of situation. And I think that we will be fine through this, but it is going to change the nature of our budget for this year and certainly will definitely affect next year as well.
As you consult with the governor and state and local officials, is there much hope out there for federal assistance coming down the pike sometime this year?
To the local level, I have no hope. Sorry.
They will reimburse
You're giving up?
expenses that are incurred to fight COVID.
Well, FEMA money will reimburse us for specific expenses, right?
But I agree with Lorraine. I don't have any hope that the federal government's going to come to the rescue. The county.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have a lot of hope either, but we were on a call this week with Senator Schumer, who did talk about the federal bills that have passed, the COVID bills. And he referred to COVID 1, 2, and 3, and he said they are working on COVID 4. And he did keep using the phrase that it would bring some support to local governments. Now, from a federal perspective, a local government could be the county.
The county.
It doesn't necessarily mean the village, the town. But we have made that clear. And I think that our legislators in Albany certainly recognize that, we need some support as well.
There was some news that came out today regarding the Paychecks Protection Program. This is an SBA loan that had been offered that unfortunately, the money had run out. I don't know if there was any indication locally or communication given, but if you'd like to share that with us, I'm sure everyone would like to hear.
Yeah, well, we got notification from the county's economic development department in an email. I had just on Tuesday done a training session to be in a position to advise businesses who were looking to apply for some of these loans. So I've been getting a lot of communications from that department because of that. Not only has the PPP run out of funds, but the Small Business Association has stopped taking applications for the EIDL loan, which is the emergency injury. I can't know, EIDL, whatever. It's an emergency loan, the EIDL. That's through the Small Business Association. And those were the two programs that all of these local small businesses would have been applying to for some relief, some money to help them, pay their expenses and get themselves through the end of this crisis. So there are rumors of more money coming, but no information yet on that.
How's the census progressing these days? Did it go over 50% in Westchester County?
The village of Mamaroneck has gone up to 53. So we're on a steady.
We're all over 50 at this point.
We are, but we want to be much, much higher.
Much.
We want to be over 90.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get people to respond to the census. It is so important for all of us for the next 10 years. It determines our federal and state aid. It determines our representation in the federal government. It's just so important. And it's just so unfortunate that it is, this confluence of events that it's happening at the exact same time as this pandemic. The good news, though, is that they have extended the response period to the end of October. So it was going to be mid-July, and now people have the opportunity to respond until October. And we're in the phase now where people can mail in a form if you didn't respond online. And we really want to encourage folks to do that. It's safe, it's confidential, and it's helpful to the community.
You can still go online and fill out, do it as well. It's www.census2020.gov. Go there. I mean, it comes at this time with the coronavirus, which has caused, I think, a lower or a more difficult process. But this virus highlights the importance of a complete count, because so much of the aid we get that's going to help us pull ourselves out of this is going to be dependent on population.
And aid to hospitals on Medicaid is based on the census.
Right.
We have a few more questions that have come in from viewers. The first question is, has there been any indication as to when schools will resume?
No.
Okay.
No, and we would not be the first to know. I think that the school superintendents really have the first line to the governor on that.
But do we know that it will not be before May 15th?
We do know that.
Yes.
Okay. Second question we have is, what are some of the ways that local residents, such as myself, can pitch in to help those less fortunate?
I'm going to put a plug in for my favorite organization right now, which is the Larchmont Mamaroneck Hunger Task Force. They are doing a food giveaway on April 21st at the Mamaroneck Avenue School. One of the main movers and shakers of that is a Larchmont trustee, Malcolm Foreman, who has done an excellent job. And this is really important because there's another 5 million people we know that lost their jobs last week. People are going to be hungry. And I remember watching something on CNN early on. We were interviewing a doctor, and he said, well, somebody asked him, what's the most important people that people have, that folks have to do to stay healthy? And he said, get enough nutrition. And it was striking to me because in America, you rarely think about, the lack of nutrition. But this is going to be a real problem. So I would hope people, give to all your charities. But if you want to help people locally, Larchmont Mamaroneck Hunger Task Force.
I think Larchmont, Mayor, you talked about the Community Counseling Center last week at the
Yes.
Loveworthy charity.
Yes, and they're really helping a lot in a time like this when people are very stressed out. There are so many organizations out there right now that are helping people locally that really could use assistance. My sister's place, the Community Resource Center, the Junior League actually is doing providing meals to New Rochelle Hospital. So there's the workers at New Rochelle Hospital. There's an awful lot of groups out there right now.
Besides this program that we're doing tonight, which I think is really valuable, so residents can see and hear you folks dealing with this issue, you have a dedicated website, do you not, for the coronavirus 19?
Yeah, we have a page on our website. I update it every other day at least. It has local and county and state and federal news. And then we put out a digital newsletter, email blasts, and the village also has a Facebook page, a Twitter account. And I have my own Facebook page, which I have a lot of people follow, and people can communicate with me through that.
And the village puts out every day, Monday through Friday, the village puts out a COVID update as an email. We also, I probably every other day put out an email. We have an information officer, and he is constantly updating Facebook and making changes and reaching out to the public. And I don't know what more we could do right now to try and reach people, but if there is more, I'd be glad to do it, because I think people need to know that they're not forgotten and that we're out here to help them if they need a hand.
Yeah.
And I would just add.
Also have I just want to add that we have a COVID-19 tab on our website dedicated to updates on the coronavirus and the situation in our community, with information also from the county and state. And we put out an email blast about twice a week with updates as well.
Great. Well, thank you for keeping everyone informed. I just want to say that LMC-TV also, amidst all the gloom and doom of what we're hearing on the news, we're trying to make sure that we tell the important and moving stories in our community as well. So for those who are out there doing good deeds, and there are plenty of them in Larchmont and Mamaroneck, you can tune into LMC-TV, go on our website. Many of our community conversations pieces will feature those stories, so you can find out ways to help and be inspired by our neighbors. So I just want to throw that out there as well. I know we're getting close to our wrap time here, but I do want to ask an important question. This is the last one that came in tonight. How are our local nursing homes such as Sarah Newman doing during this crisis?
And we also have some adult care communities, homes in our communities as well. How are they doing?
Well, I can tell you, I can't tell you specifics because there's laws about patient privacy, but Sarah Newman has not been unaffected. They're doing the best they can under very difficult circumstances. We reach out. I talk to the director of Sarah Newman every other day to see what we can do and to do what we can do. And we've been supplying them amply with hand sanitizer. But just in general, I would, they have not gone off unscathed. And I'd leave that to them to give specifics.
Is there anything that individual people can do to help?
Stay home.
The same message as you delivered last week. Stay home, save a life.
Yep.
Right. Social distance when you're out, wear a mask, please. We're still in this.
Yep.
You're
being a hero by staying home.
Thank you. Will we be able to see you next week at this time? On Thursday? We'd love to have you back.
I'm available.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Yes.
I just want to say how vitally important LMC has been in this emergency. You've done great stories. You've told great stories about this community and how it's doing its best and pulling together and putting this together. As Lorraine said before, there's almost no way to inform our public about what's going on these days in LMC-TV. And I just want to thank you all for coming in and doing your job.
Thank you very much, Tom. We want to thank you all for doing yours as well. And, you know, everybody's done a wonderful job here. And I want to thank our staff as well, particularly Sean Kelly, who's physically running this meeting tonight for us. So thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mike, and thank you all.
This program is repeated, is it not, Matt?
Correct. So we air the Community Conversations program 7:30 every night. You can find it on channel 75 Optimum or 36 Verizon. We're also available on lmctv.org and on LMC-TV's YouTube channel as well.
And we also have the municipal meetings.
Correct.
Yes.
So all municipal meetings, all school board meetings, your community conversations and stories, keeping you informed of what's going on, the really great work that's being done in our communities beyond just the unfortunate numbers that we hear so much on the news.
Thank you all very much for LMC TV. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.